My name is Ethan Higgins. My job at the farm was I worked on the teamwork crew for 4 years. I was on the crew for 3 years, and then me and my friend Brendan were crew chiefs for a year. And then after college, I came back and worked on restoration work on the barn, timber frame restoration work on the barn. Went on a run this morning, and I actually came down here and I just like ran around the old neighborhood, and I just like remember being a kid and like just feeling like there was this older generation and like this old way of life that was like that had just passed away, and like I just missed it. And my family had a farm on Rockland Street for 100 years. And that's how I felt growing up. It's like I just missed it. Like, but if you dug around a little bit, you could find like these little nooks, like in the suburbs, like in between like the big suburban houses. You could find these little nooks where there's like an old shed with some old stuff and some old people who are going to tell you some secrets about the way that the world used to be, or some amazing story that you'd be like, oh, I can't believe that's real. I can't believe you used to have to like pick up the phone and talk to somebody and tell them where you wanted your call to go. And I just was like fascinated by that, and I really wanted an outlet for that. I just wanted to, it's not even a thing I thought about. I didn't think like I want to learn more about that world. It just was like interesting to me, and I like just being around people from that older generation. And I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and I was just kind of at a certain point, it started to become like how I felt like I was trying to like identify myself, how I was trying to like shape myself. And so then I found the Natick farm, and I'm like super proud that it was an ad in the paper, because I don't think that would happen anymore in 2024. But I came here, I think, and I had done like, because I went to the memorial school, so I came here for like kid programs and stuff. But then when I was 14, I started working on the teen work crew. And yeah, I was here every summer after that. And there was one year, I think I also was doing like a CIT, counselor in training kind of thing. Anyway, I spent a lot of time here over the summers. And the guy who was running the program at the time, Marco Terry, who were like great friends now. Although I don't see him as much as I should. I don't call him as much as I should. But he was, he's a timber framer. He's a builder, craftsman. And so at the time, he was building a lot of different timber frame structures. So we worked on, the first summer I was here, we worked on we called it the Nature Center, but now it's the Gnome Home. And that was the first timber frame building I had worked on. And we worked on that building. And that was an ongoing project. But it was just kind of getting interested in all these old building, or not old, but these like traditional skills, building projects. So it was the Nature Center, the Gnome Home.
Yep.
The composting toilet, the market stand, the tractor shed, just like all these building projects. And I was really, it was cool. Something about it was cool. And I had always thought, because my family farmed, I had always thought that like, I want a farm. But I ended up really loving building trades, and I ended up going into timber frame construction. I have my own business in Ann Arbor now. When I was a kid, I was just really looking for more authenticity than I felt like I was getting, like playing hockey and playing sports and going to public school, and that's fine. But I wanted. Like I spent a lot of time on my family's farm, and that was really interesting. There was like interesting out of the box stuff. And I think that the farm I can only speak to my experience, but for me it was so special because I was like this interested, developing young person. And I was like, I want to learn about axes. I want to learn about old tools and old buildings and old people and old ways of doing things and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't know where to learn about this. I had no idea. And then I found the Natick Farm, and it's its own resource. It's a connection to other resources. And it gives, I mean, it gives kids the opportunity to figure out what they want to do within this context. I think that was super valuable. I think that was super valuable to me. I think it's still really valuable. I mean, if you grow up in suburban Massachusetts and you want to learn about laying hens or, um, you know, timber frame construction or rotational grazing, I don't know where else you're going to learn. I mean, you can do it, but this is right here. And it's a part of, and it gives people the opportunity to do that, and it's like a part of their home. It's not like they have to leave. They can do it here, and they can learn here. Yeah, I think it's just valuable to be able to. Yeah, young people need like an outlet when they want to learn about stuff that's not, you know, conventional. I think another benefit is like if you ever read anything by like Wendell Berry or any of these writers, you can see any of these like pre-industrial writers or agrarian writers, you kind of see what youth was like before um before like the post-industrial luxury like video games, um like sports. Nothing wrong with sports, video games. I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with them. But that's another thing that I think the farm does for developing kids. Like you can have authentic experiences. I can talk about the time that like I was digging around under the barn looking for a skunk when this dude was just like trying to give me a hard time about it. Or, you know, I mean, I remember the first timber frame I worked on was that gnome home, and there was this ancient machine that you sit on and you crank and it drills a hole into the beam. And I have one now, and it's like a $500 old antique thing. And I just like the first time I got up to use it, I like toppled off of the sawhorses with it and like dragged it down, and, like bent it. And it's not like a dramatic story, but you can have little authentic experiences like that that can color your early years, and you can look back and be like, man, wasn't that fun? Because I can look back and be like, I don't look back on the time I spent playing video games and I'm like, oh man, remember that level that I completed? And it's not that fun. But you can look back.
You can come here and look at the compost toilet.
Yeah, exactly.
Say, I built that.
Yeah, exactly.
And remember what it was like building it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I remember watching my friend at the top of the roof on the composting toilet, and this other kid was like pushing a drill through the two rafters for the peg hole, and the drill caught and spun around and kicked and hit my friend in the head. And I thought it was hilarious. And that's, I don't think I would have got that. I don't have brothers and sisters. I don't think, and my friends they were fine, but I don't think I would have got any kind of experiences like that if I wasn't here. So I don't know, I was kind of going on this trajectory where I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do. I don't know what interests me. And I was kind of trying to find that. I was like, I guess I play hockey. Oh, maybe that'll be my identity. Like you're looking for an identity, something to define you. And then you can find a place like this you can do the same thing, but you can do it based around authentic experiences. I've always been somebody who's late, and it's a very bad habit. It's a very bad characteristic to have. But I always used to show up late, and Mark O'Terry, who was running the teen crew, he didn't like that, and I understand why. It's like you shouldn't encourage that behavior. But he used to make me dig holes to punish me for being late. Not punish me, but I'd have to stay late to dig holes. And I kind of think he just started, he started giving me a little bit of a harder time, just to kind of try to push me to not be like that. And man, I was a pain, but he stuck up for me. Linda was like, I don't know about that kid. And Mark's like, well, he's big. And, so I just started getting these jobs that I didn't really like, but they were kind of out of the box. And I remember there was one time where it was in the barn, in the old barn And I remember Mark, and it was, I think, maybe, 10 minutes before the end of the day, and I had gotten there late. So was going to have to stay late anyways. And Mark's comes up to me. He's like, yeah, Ethan, I think there's a skunk downstairs in the barn. Hold on, this is like the funniest thing to me. He just kind of came up to me. He was like, yeah, Ethan, I think there's a skunk downstairs in the barn. So, it's a flashlight. Flashlight over there in the tool room. And, yeah, why don't you go see if you can do something about that? And, nothing happened. There's no punchline to the story, but that's how he framed it. Is get a flashlight, go see if you can do something about it. There's a lot of things that I think are really interesting, right? And even though this place is a farm, it's not just about agriculture. There are other farms that are, they're focused on vegetable production, and that's fine. That's awesome, and there should be more of that. It's like we develop like, okay, what's the answer going to be to like our food system crisis? That's awesome. But the Natick farm, it touches on different ways of life. I mean, we're sitting in a timber frame pavilion right now. There's not a lot of timber frames in the world. There's some, but there's not a lot. There's a timber frame right there. There's one right there. I mean, there's dry laid stone masonry. There's rotational grazing. I mean, when I was here, we were doing things like we were learning like values of thrift. Nailing grains. Linda Simpkins. God bless Linda Simpkins. I love you, Linda. If you're there, if you're watching this, I love you. But she had us nail the grain sacks onto the inside of all the chicken houses and the turkeys and all that. And like that's something that people don't do anymore. So I don't know, I feel like it just gave people access, especially young people access to just a different option, a different way of life, or kind of this can be like a gateway to go forward in that direction. Like I came here, and then one day I found a pamphlet in there for Sterling College, which is this like little hippie school in Vermont, and I went there. It was 100 students. I went there, and then from there found a timber frame restoration company. I started working for them, and then I started moving around different timber frame shops, and then I ended up moving to Michigan to help my friends from college build a barn on their raw milk dairy, and now I build timber frames not only for farmers but a lot for small farmers in the Ann Arbor area. And it's I wouldn't be there if I hadn't gone to Sterling College. If I hadn't been here, I wouldn't have gone there. My hope for the farm is to maintain its integrity as it grows. And I think it's totally doing that. Because the biggest thing that I think the farm, the impact of people knowing where their food comes from, knowing that there is a different way of life outside of just the supermarket, whatever, all the office, whatever, all that stuff. There is a different way of life that's, I think, more intuitive to people. That's really great. Just most personal to me is like the fact that I was a kid. I was like a chubby, unsure, awkward kid, and I didn't know what to do with myself. And I came here, and it was okay to be like that, and it was okay to like ask questions about things that I couldn't ask other people about because they didn't know the answers. And yeah, I think that the biggest thing the farm is doing is letting interested young people explore themselves and like that interest. And that's what I want to see continue to happen, because like I don't farm at all. I work for farmers though, and it kind of instilled that in me, and my family farmed, and I always valued that. I mean, my family used to cut hay across the school. You know, the memorial before the memorial school was built. That was a hay field, and my uncle Nick used to, when he was in 6th grade, used to drive the truck, and my grandfather was driving the tractor and chopping the corn and blowing it into the truck. And my uncle Nick was, you know, he was whatever in 6th grade doing a man's work, and I always thought that was cool. That my family was working right over there, and they remember this place before any of this was here.